That's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine. Hello everybody, and welcome to not a review, but again, I'm currently going through the final book in the Dune trilogy that I'm going through by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. So I obviously don't have a Star Wars review up for you at the moment. So I've been through time going through these other types of videos to make up for no reviews. So a little bit ago, I did top 5 expanding universe women. So I thought this time I would do top 5 expanded universe men. Of course, also, if there's some loud shite over there, if you can hear that, that's because my brother is a teenager and is frustrating. But I don't know if I'll have time tomorrow, so here that is. Regardless about all that, I have many honorable mentions. So before I even get into my top 5, let's start off with one that might upset people. The fact that it's an honorable mention and not in the top 5. Might be in the top 10. Don't know, because I'm not doing top 10. I might do a top 10 when I do like a tier list or something. But I don't know yet. But Anakin Solo. I love Anakin. I think Anakin is a phenomenal character. You know, he's interesting in Junior Jedi Knights, but he really finds his own in New Jedi Order. And would it have been great to see him go forward and have many adventures? Yes. But what they did with him was absolutely splendid. And this also might be a bit upsetting. I think the fact that we don't get a full picture, that it gets cut short, is positive in strengthening his character in the same way that Verget has very small appearances, so her impact is kind of larger. I feel the same way about Anakin. I mean, he's around during the Bantam era after Dark Empire, but he doesn't really become his own until New Jedi Order. And he's a phenomenal character, and I love him. Some other honorable mentions. Thrawn. What a splendid villain. What an absolutely fantastic villain. Absolutely wonderful. Everything about him to his Sherlock Holmes type, demeanor and everything else that he is. Thrawn is great. And his appearances in Outbound Flight, and everything. And the short stories that he's in, he is a great male character, and I love everything about him. And he's another case of he's used so sparingly that I appreciate him a lot more. Some other characters. Who else do we got here? Booster Tarek. I love Booster. Booster's probably one of my favorite parts of X-Wing. And for that reason, he gets to be on that list of honorable mentions. If they're not in an honorable mention, it doesn't mean that they're not great. I just either forgot because this is off the cuff and not pre-planned, or because I don't think they would be in a top 10. But it doesn't negate them from being wonderful. But going with X-Wing, I'm not going to say Corran, because I think Corran is fine. But you know who I will mention from X-Wing? Thace Lorn, and especially Ton Fannin. Just... Ton Fannin is... Reading it a second time through Iron Fist, and reading Ton Fannin and everything he says and talks about in that book, I related to it a lot more this time around than I did the first. And it is for many, but it's one of the few times I've cried. I'm trying to hold back even thinking about it, because I'm going to end up crying, because it's so freaking good, man. But it is... He's a peak character. He'd probably be in the top 10 for me, but he's not in the top 5. Exar Kun. Fantastic Sith Lord. He is so fun and so entertaining to watch in those Tales of the Jedi comics, and the way that he comes back in Jedi Academy trilogy is just chef's kiss. Since we're in the Old Republic era, let's talk about a few others. Darth Bane. Absolutely phenomenal. He's probably in the top 10, though I'm not sure. Darth Bane started the Rule 2. His trilogy is fantastic and well deserving of a spot on this list. While we're going further backward, Darth Malgus. Now, is he the best character? No. That being said, that cutscene, that cinematic, I don't care who you are, it gets the testosterone in my blood flowing. I love watching that Deceived trailer and watching Malgus tear down. It's so satisfying. It's so good. And that being said, he's a well-written character, at least in his own novel. And he's a fun character in the game. So, there's that. Going even further back, Darth Revan / you. Revan's great. He unfortunately has the habit of being a video game character. And a lot of the issues that come from the Revan novel, there are other issues, I'm not trying to deny that. There are legitimate problems that people have with those books. But one of the most common criticism I hear is that this isn't Revan. What do you mean? Like, the whole purpose of the video game was for you to be in Star Wars. The twist is that you are somebody else. You are Revan. Sorry if I spoiled that for you, but that's it. Which means Revan was a person prior to the video game, and then he was you. He had a completely different experience being you. He learns the revelation that he's Revan. He may get back all of his memories, but that doesn't change the experiences and the attitudes he's had as you. So you get to the point of Revan, the novel, and it's an integration. This isn't Revan from before the game. This is a Revan who has all of his memories from beforehand, but also all the memories and experiences as you. So it's this weird meld now. A third identity, I guess you could say. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like... They're like, no, that's supposed to be me. And that's... No. A lot of people have issues with that. But that's the thing. Revan wasn't really a character. Not in the video game he's established in. He was a Sith Lord. That's all we really know. Kreia elaborates. But you gotta remember, Kreia hasn't actually seen Revan in years. So she's talking out of her butt. Regardless if she trained him or not, she doesn't actually know a lot of the reasons he made his decisions. She's just speculating based on what she understands him to be. That's like my mother saying, oh, well, he did this and this because of this. Like, she may be well informed because she's my mother, but that doesn't necessarily mean she understands the reasons for what I did. But that's kind of a whole separate topic. The point being, him being a video game character and not really having a well-defined personality kind of hinders me from putting him in that top spot. What else? Ulic Qel-Droma, fantastic character as well. Might be in a top 10, but I love him as well. And don't think I'd forget Zane Garrick. I love Zane. Zane is probably one of the funniest characters in all of Star Wars, and his whole being a terrible Jedi, but at the same time, being one of the best in terms of where his heart is and who he is as a being. He may not be an Anakin Skywalker skills wise, but it's the heart. And I love Zane. Probably one of my favorite. He's most likely in that top 10 somewhere, even though he didn't make it to this list. And honestly, depending on the day and how I'm feeling, he could easily get in that top 5 spot. I really love him, so I don't think I'm knocking him. There's so many. Kyle Katarn's cool. Not one of my favorites, but he's cool. Darth Plagueis. Quinlan Voss. Quinlan Voss is awesome. One of the best parts of those Republic comics. Love him. And since we're going let's go a little bit more obscure. Dark Times with, what's his name? Oh, frick. The main Jedi from Dark Times. He's an underrated main character. I really think he's cool. Speaking of others, we got K'Kruhk. K'Kruhk is phenomenal. I love K'Kruhk. Absolutely stellar character. On that same vein, Asherod Hett. Another fantastic character. I love Asherod. His whole story, from beginning to end, is it's a lot of fun. Now my mind's going to Cade Skywalker. Cade Skywalker is unique in the fact that he is so opposite to all the Skywalkers that came before him. I love that he's kind of edgy. I love that you don't really love him for a good half of those comics. Because liking him isn't really the point. The point is to show how un-Skywalker-like he is. But in the end, he does do what's right. And the hero's journey with him remains true, if a bit more edgy. And he gets Delilah Blue, which is arguably, looks-wise at least, best female in Star Wars. Anyway, who else? For honorable mentions, at least. A lot of others I can name. Dash Rendar. At least because of Shadow Games, purely because of that book. Love Dash Rendar. I'm trying to think what else. But you know what? This is getting pretty long. So I'm sure I missed a whole ton. I know I did. So let me know your favorites in the comment section below. And just some of your honorable mentions as well. I think that could be fun. So, into the top 5. Who gets number 5? I've battled between this, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to say Numenor. Yeah, I think Numenor is awesome. I think he's a phenomenal villain. And if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, this won't make much sense. But he reminds me a lot of Littlefinger. This person seeding the seeds behind the scenes, trying to make sure he stays on top, or as close to the top as he can get. I think Numenor is absolutely phenomenal, and he easily earns this spot on my personal EU male character list. And number 4 goes to I changed my mind. I'm going to give it to Zangarek. That wasn't originally my pick, and I put him in honorable mentions, but I already mentioned him. But his story. I love those KOTOR comics. I love him and Griff. I love everything about Zane. And there's been some stuff going on. I don't want to get too in depth as to spoil it, but me and Marcel have been working on some things, and well, it was currently only one thing at the time of this recording. But Marcel being the revanchist on YouTube, who used to go subscribe to, like, now, why are you even watching this? Go subscribe to him. But we're working on some stuff, and it made me think about Zane a lot more, and it made me just remember how much I appreciate and love him, because it's been a while since I've read those comics, and he's just phenomenal. I love Zane. I love the whole crew that he's with, you know, everyone involved with that, and it is my favorite comic book series in all of the EU. I love the KOTOR comics. It's just so good from beginning to end. Thank you, John Jackson Miller. I know you talked to my friend Stevie B. You're never going to see this, but if by some chance you do, thank you. Honestly, I mean, I love Kenobi, but at least for Star Wars, the KOTOR comics were your magnum opus. On to number 3. I mentioned somebody else, but I didn't mention him. I mentioned Thrawn in the honorable mentions because he doesn't get a spot on this list. Who gets a spot on this list? Gilead Pelion. Gilead is special in the fact that no matter who wrote him, he was never written poorly. He was a consistency amongst all books. Whether you like them, whether you don't. One thing that remains true, Pelion remains the GOAT, as he should be. And I love everything about Pelion. I love that he's a bit more hardcore than our heroes, but at the same time there's honor and good. And he fundamentally disagrees with the politics and the government of the New Republic, and yet willingly makes a retreat in the Thrawn trilogy. Takes great pride and honor and respect in Dala and Darksaber, to eventually forming a truce with the New Republic, to all the things that he helps with in New Jedi Order, to the stuff that goes down in Legacy of the Force. Pelion remains the most consistent and always incredible person that he is, and Star Wars, my love of Star Wars The Expanded Universe would not be the same without Pelion. Pelion, may have been a lackey to Thrawn in the Thrawn trilogy, but over time he rose above, and he's most definitely better than Thrawn, as a character at least, in my opinion. On to number 2. Anybody who knows me for a good enough time should know who this spot easily goes to. But, in case you don't know me, hi, my name is Alex, and the second spot, without a doubt, goes to Kyp Durron. I love Kyp. From the Jedi Academy trilogy, I fell in love with him, but what really cemented him as my favorite, or one of my, if not for my first pick, he would have been my favorite, was the short story with him, which just blew me away. And then he showed up in New Jedi Order and Young Jedi Knights, and each time he showed up I got more excited and more happy because he is just amazing. I love Kyp, and his entire life being atonement for the sins of his past. Everything about that, I love Kyp so much. And he's always right. So, he did have a weird little moment where he started hitting on Jaina. We're not going to get into that. That was a little bad part on him, but other than that, and the time that he lied to Jaina to try to get them to blow up some ships, 99% of the time, Kyp is my boy. On to number 1. Number 1. Well, if you saw my video or my interview with OG Star Wars, this should be no surprise to anyone, but in case you didn't, number 1 goes to Jacen Solo. My favorite character in the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Number 1. But also my favorite male character, just by virtue of being my favorite. A lot of it's controversial. I really don't want to get into it, but and I talked about it in the interview I was in. But I saw this man be born, and I saw this man die. I got to basically experience his entire life in the cause of these novels, and I'm ups and downs with them. Where I loved him, where I was annoyed by him, where I loved him, but then got sad at the decisions being made. And through it all, everything about him remained compelling to me, personally. I love Jason. I won't lie, I'm biased. I watched the sequels. I liked Kylo Ren from the get-go. And Jason is that times a million. Better in every way. Anybody who argues otherwise, like Noah or whatever, no. You're wrong. Get over it. You suck. You're German. You go 999. Go to bed. Get some sleepy sleep. Go drink some milk. You'll feel better in the morning. Maybe eat a Snickers too. You aren't you when you're hungry. I try to keep a straight face, but I couldn't anymore. Oh man. But that being said, Jason Solo is to me one of the most compelling characters ever. And I love his story. Whether he just be the silly little goofball in Young Jedi Knights to the annoying, questioning little brat that he is in the first half of New Jedi Order to what he is in the second half. And the stories afterward, he just... something about it just hit me differently. But that's pretty much it, guys. My top 5 favorite Star Wars men in the expanding universe. That's it for now. I hope my honorable mentions were satisfying enough that they at least got mentioned. If I didn't mention them, please let me know some of your favorites in the comment section below. And until next time, may the Force be with you. See ya.